He has been named one of the top 10 social influencers in Africa and top 50 in the world by Forbes, and his rule breaker, change maker, Rich Simmonds, and he knows a thing or two about expanding one's brand and effecting leadership communication in the digital age. With his unique and paradigm-shifting ideas, Rich joins us on the show to talk about the power of effective leadership communication and how one can unlock particular strengths within themselves or their companies in this age of digital technologies to ensure growth. Rich, pleasure to have you with us on the show.
Thank you, Sim.
And much appreciated. I must say up front that I got to know you through the same digital thing. You see, the digital age introduces you to people. And I saw your postings or your tweets, and I said, but who's Rich Simmonds? And then I did a bit of background research and decided, we've got to hear your story because it sounds and seems like you've got a story to tell. Pleasure, though, that you have agreed to be with us here.
Thanks.
Now, we've got new concepts, things like social influencers. It tells us that the nature of work is changing. What does that mean, social influencer?
It's changing all the time. But I think that the most important thing that we must look at first is the fact that, are we social? I think many people get it wrong because they forget the social. They think it's another platform, another medium of advertising, but it's not. We need to connect with people. We're moving into a world that's extremely disconnected, so people are wanting connection. And if we can't give them connection, then social media means it's irrelevant for them. Then they're going to go somewhere else. And I think many companies have missed the fact that you need to connect with people socially before we can sell something to them.
But I hear you. I hear the word social. We need to be connected, social. What do you mean? Because somebody might think, if I've posted something on social media, and that's about it, what is this Rich Simmonds all about when he says social? What do you mean? And let's use Twitter as an example.
Well, firstly, we need to give people what they're looking for, not what we want to tell them.
Yeah.
And I think often we're trying to tell our story before we're ready to listen to other people's stories. Now, if we want to be social, if I'm meeting you, and we must never think of the medium or the Twitter or the Facebook or whatever we're thinking we're connecting, we're actually looking for real people to connect with. So if I wanted to connect with you on a personal level, because that's what social means, how would I greet you if I met you at a party or at a networking event or something like that? I'd want to find out who Tim is. So I find out that you're a presenter on the TV, but what do you really do? And to have a meaningful conversation, where do you come from? Who's your family? Perhaps we're related in one or other way. Maybe our parents work together. And if we can find that sort of connection, it has a more meaningful thing than, I met this guy at a party, he's on TV or something like that. If we can find a real connection with people, then it's a meaningful connection.
But okay, let's ask about your own personal case, right? You've got so many people and you're a top 10 influencer, so many followers. How do you then engage or connect with those people socially? How did you build that yourself?
Step by step. That's the only way to build it. So
yes.
You build one relationship at a time. And that relationship can be a meaningful, close relationship with someone you're actually going to do business with. But most of the time, we're giving people something they're looking for. So in your case, you might be giving people the news or the information they're looking for. So they have a connection with you and you serving them. So it's leadership. You serving them with information that they need. Now, when we disregard that and you telling them, like the typical people think Facebook is when you go to have coffee and cake and you tell everyone.
Toast and tea.
Toast and tea. So are you saying that no one ever has toast and tea?
Yeah.
So it becomes irrelevant. But when you can give them something that's newsworthy or a good story or something that's meaningful to them.
Yes.
So I did a lot of inspirational tweets, and I still do those, because people seem to like that.
Yes.
They seem to like a bit of daily inspiration. So I built a lot of my brand on daily inspiration, and people still all over the world tell me that they enjoy my daily inspiration that comes. And when I interact with people, it's probably around that because they've asked me something. I might have put out something that's inspirational and they say, but what did you mean by that? And then that's when you can engage with people.
That's right. So now, in the business context, how does that translate?
Well, in a business context, if you want to be a leader, you need to be the one who's communicating. But in most cases in business, unfortunately, we allow someone else to communicate for us. So we've got an agency, and there's a place for an agency in any business, but that's the business's brand that they communicate. But personal brands need to be communicated by the people. So if you're the CEO of the company and you want to be a good leader and continuously communicate with your staff and your customers, you need to be doing the communication.
But do you see that happening in South Africa? Enough of it or
No,
not
we
quite? I mean, there are
actually-
more people using social media and communicating whatever it is, but businesses, are they taking advantage of the technology and the approach to using the social media?
No, and it's not just South Africa, it's right across the world. Very few people take advantage of the tools that are available to them. Maybe it's a case of they misunderstand what's really available to them, or they get a picture from an agency or something that isn't quite, or maybe the agency doesn't understand the value of a personal brand. So the information that people are getting is actually the wrong information. And then, of course, building anything takes work. Okay? So perhaps people do know. But of course, it's only those that choose to do that little bit extra that actually succeed.
But here's a challenge again with the case of social media. I've heard from other people and companies saying, how do you measure the effectiveness of that kind of communication? Is it mere numbers of followers, or is there a way in which you can say this thing is working or it's not?
Well, see, this is the interesting thing. We've been brought up in an analytical world. We've been taught maths from the day one, and if we couldn't do well at maths, we were considered stupid, okay? Which is not the case. We forget that there's an emotional side to communication. So it's not, how do you measure it? How do you feel? When you meet someone that's meaningful to you, how do you feel? So the more people you meet that become meaningful to you, is it a tick box? Can you say, I met 10 people. Am I going to make 10 million rand? No, it's relationships.
Yes.
It's like when you meet your prospective partner or you meet a good friend. Well, is it important that you said you've met someone? No, you felt good when you met this person. There was a meaningful exchange. When there's a meaningful exchange, that's what the measurement should be. How did you feel?
Yes.
Did you feel enriched by this person?
Yes.
Or did you feel negative?
Yeah, it's like they took something away from you, and if you can, you would like to run away from them.
Exactly.
I want to take advantage of the time I have with you on the program, and I know you give a lot of talks besides over social media, but face-to-face talks. And the world of work is changing, and we know many young South Africans are trying to make meaning of the socio-economic changes, whether it be in terms of the studies they pursue, the careers they want to choose, and companies, big ones in particular, no longer employing. Let's use this moment to talk about those types of changes. How should a young person think about the world of work, for instance?
Well, firstly, I think that when we look at the world of work, everything in life is about sales. You're trying to sell yourself to your employer. You're trying to sell yourself to your prospective partner. You're trying to sell your brand. You're trying to sell your product. So the sooner we can learn how to sell. And what is selling really? It's dealing with objections. And when you look at the entrepreneur, which we desperately need more entrepreneurs, people they don't fail because they can't have the right resources. They haven't got the right resilience to be an entrepreneur. They can't deal with rejection. And what sales teaches us from a very young age is how to deal with rejection. I come to you with something, and it's either the wrong price, the wrong quality. Now, if I'm 6 years old and I'm trying to sell you some oranges or an apple or a banana or something like that, you go, hey, I don't want to buy your banana, it's black. And you go, oh, right. Yeah, but the banana doesn't look so good anymore. Let me find the right product for my person. But I've had to deal with that rejection, and maybe the product that I've got isn't right for my customer. But from a very early age, we need to learn to deal with that so we can learn to sell. You speak to a lot of successful entrepreneurs, they started at an extremely young age simply by selling little things. And the process wasn't selling, it was dealing with objection. So the sooner you can learn to deal with objection, the more objections that you can do, the better you become as a communicator, because you understand how to negotiate with people then. So to anyone out there, I would really encourage them to learn how to communicate with people. And the best way to communicate with people is to try sell them something, sell yourself. So try get a date, for instance. Try and take the girl to the movies. You know, see what you could do.
And see what happens.
See what happens. If she
And deal with it.
And deal with it.
She gives you a slap across the face. That's life.
There's more fish in the sea. Try the next one.
You'll find a better approach next time.
Correct. You won't use the same silly approach.
Tell
next
me
time
about
around.
your business at this time, so at least you can sell your business now. Tell me about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My business is called, well, I have two businesses. I have a company called Catalyse Media, which is actually helping people to do digital active experiences in activation senses. Okay, so you see a lot of tweets about things. We get invited to events, as I'm sure you get invited to events, and no one ever shares you share your perspective, I share my perspective, but the brand themselves at these events don't give the right information. So they rely on you and me and other people that they've invited to share the experience. And we try to teach the brand how to make that experience real, so that people who get invited to the events can build on that, as opposed to try to start from the foundation. So that's my business called Catalyse Media. And then I have another very interesting business called Disruptive Dynamics. And there we use disruption. And the interesting thing about disruption is it's probably the oldest psychology in the world. If I tell you I'm going to disrupt you, so I tell you I'm going to disrupt you, what happens in your neuro brain, okay, is you go into survival mode immediately, the fight or flight. When you go into the survival mode of your brain, your creative side closes down, and you don't know what to do. But what I have got is your attention at that time. And disruption allows us to get people's attention. And so we focus on the way we communicate. How do we disrupt people? Because there's a million people trying to copy each other out there.
Yes.
If you're trying to copy someone, you're never going to disrupt anyone. So how are you going to think differently? And I think right from the very start of when I started to build my own personal brand, it was about how am I going to be different from someone else?
Sure. Well, Rich, let's end it right here. So you're one of the top social influencers on the continent. How many followers now?
Just over 500,000 now.
Right. And you have not gone out there to make a fool of yourself or anything of the sort, right?
Try not to. But you know, sometimes we have fun.
Yeah, sure. And thanks very much, Rich.
Thank you.
And you will find him on Twitter at Rich Simmonds. He's our guest and has been this evening. And we felt, let's have a chat about this and find out how you can use social media effectively.